Okay, this is our second review sheet for the first part of your final exam. Remember, the first part of your final exam is on chapters 1, 2, 3, and 6. So this is reviewing chapters 2 and 3, which are linear measurements and their conversions. So let's start with the questions. It says 3/4 of a foot is equal to how many inches? So you want to remember some of your conversions. Some you might have them memorized or look in the back of your workbook. Here you can see, so first chart is for metric, then it's for imperial. The first column in all of these is for lengths, which is chapters 2 and 3. So imperial is there. It says 1 foot is 12 inches. Okay, so if we've got 3/4 of a foot, then we want to go 3/4 times 12 inches. In your calculator, you don't have to use fractions for this. You'll have your calculator. And so we go 3 divided by 4 times 12. But if you remember that 3/4 is, that 4 goes into 12 3 times, then 3 times 3 is 9. Mr. Tonak, that's my husband, is 6'5" tall, expresses height in inches only. So that means we have to convert, this is already in inches, but the 6 feet, we have to convert that to inches. So same calculation as above. Each foot is 12 inches. So if we multiply 6 by 12, we get 72 inches plus the 5. So that's going to be 77 inches. That's what it means by inches only. Normally, with imperial, when we're talking about our height, we talk about it in feet and inches. In metric, we usually just use centimeters, all one. So Ms. Teacher is 68 inches tall. Express her height in feet and inches. So this one, we have to do the opposite. So here we multiplied by 12. Now we've got to divide by 12. The thing is, when we divide, if you just divide 68 by 12 in your calculator, you get a decimal, right? So that's okay, but it's not 5'6" or 7 inches, right? Based on that. So what that tells you is it's 5, so you can do this by 12. It's 5.6 repeating, basically. So that's 5 full feet. And then we have to figure out what this part is in inches. All right, so what you can do is subtract 5 to get just that 0.6 repeating, and then multiply that by 12. And you get 8. Okay, so that's going to be 8 inches. Now, you don't even need your calculator. What is even easier to do, although some people don't like long division, is dividing 68 by 12 using long division or short division. But in any case, 5 goes into, 12 goes into 68 about 5 times. Multiply back, that's 60. Subtract, and 8's your remainder. That's your 8 inches there. So you didn't even need to do any multiplying or your calculator or anything. Next one, distance between two towns is 165 kilometers. This in meters, well, then on your formula sheet, you're looking at your metric conversions. Okay, so 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So this is in kilometers, so we're going to multiply by 1,000. And that's going to be 165,000 meters. I guess I can put it in here. Okay. Cameron is building a fence around his yard using panels that are sold in 2-foot lengths. The perimeter of his yard is 35 yards. Determine how many panels he should buy. So this is in feet, and this is in yards. So we need to convert preferably the bigger one in the yards into feet, and then you just divide by 2. So imperial, we want to look at our conversion if you can't remember. So here, imperial, there are 3 feet in a yard. Okay. So we're going to multiply this by 3, and that's going to be, what, 105 feet. So then divide that by 2, because there's 2 feet per panel. So 105, you can do this in your head, but I'll do it on my calculator, is 52.5 panels. Now the thing is, you can't buy half of a panel, so you'd want to round up to 53. If you went 52, you wouldn't have enough. A meeting room at school has the following shape and dimensions. Calculate the perimeter of the room. So take a look. Perimeter, remember, means adding up all the sides, but there's some sides that aren't labeled here, so we can't forget about them. Think about walking around the whole thing. You have to walk here, here, so we know 20 plus 4, but then we don't know what this is, and we don't know what this is, and then 9, and then 12. So we want to figure these out. So this is, we're going to assume these are all 90 degrees here. Okay, so that means that this side of 20 is parallel to this unknown side. And take a look, also parallel to 9. So really this distance here is 9. The total is 20. So 20 minus 9 is 11. So this is going to be 11 feet. And then same thing here. This whole thing is 12. This is 4. So this would be 8 feet. So now when we add them up, 20 plus 4 plus 11 plus 8 plus 9 plus 12. Okay, now this is one way of doing it, so we'll do this. So 20 plus 4 plus 11 plus 8 plus 9 plus 12 is 64 feet. Now, another way of thinking about it, I'm just going to erase this blue markings that I have, is that if we moved this side here out here, it would be there. And if we move this here, we'd actually form a rectangle. And so we could say, okay, well, the perimeter of the rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So the 20 and the 12, not the 4 and the 9. So that would be 40 plus 24 is 64. Okay, so it just depends on the shape. This we could do that with. Then it says calculate the perimeter of the room in meters to nearest tenth. So we have 64 feet and we need to show that in meters. Okay, well, how many, we need to know the conversion for that. So you look in the back of your book. We're going from imperial to metric. So that's there's the first, second, third column down. And look for feet to meters if it's given, and it sure is. 1 foot is 0.31 meters. Okay, oh, sorry, shouldn't put that there. It's 1 foot is 0.31 meters. So we want to take 64 and multiply 0.31 meters. So this is feet. That's meters per foot. So the feet divide out. And we get 64 times 0.31. And that's 19.84. Okay, so nearest tenth, 19.8. Now, you could also alternatively go to the metric to imperial, 3.27. That's 1 meter equals that. Then you would have to divide 64 by 3.27. If we did that, okay, you'll get close. It won't be exactly the same. You'll get 19.6. On a test, we would accept either one. All right, next question. Jonathan walks 1.4 kilometers to school each day. Determine this distance in yards, rounded to the nearest tenth. So 1.4 kilometers equals how many yards? So we want to see if we can get a conversion from kilometers to yards. It might not be given in the chart right away because this is sort of equivalent to a mile and this is yards. So let's take a look at our formula sheet. We do want to go from metric to imperial. So we have from meters to yards, and we have kilometers to miles. So if we did kilometers to miles, then we'd have to go from miles to yards. If we do, if we can convert our kilometers to meters, then we can then convert to yards. So I think that's what I'm going to do, because converting 1.4 kilometers to meters is really easy, right? So 1.4 kilometers times 1,000 meters in a kilometer is 1,400 meters, okay? And so then we can take our 1,400 meters, multiply by, so meters to yards, 1.09. 1.09 here, sec. Yards per meter. So 1,400 times 1.09 is 1,526 yards. Oops, yards. Okay. And it says nearest tenth, but we didn't have to round to the nearest tenth. Now, if you had done it by converting to miles first, that would be multiplying by 0.62. So 1.4 times 0.62. That gets it into miles. And then you would have to look at your miles to yards, 1,760. So then multiply by 1,760, and we get 1,527.7 to the nearest tenth. So very close, but a little bit off. And that's just because the conversion factors that we're using in the back of the book only go to 2 decimal places, where really they should be going further, right? More accurate, but we're just keeping it to the 2 in the chart. All right, the radius of a circle is 5.6 centimeters. Determine the circumference of the circle. So remember, circumference is pi times diameter, or 2 pi r. So either one of these you can use. Biggest thing is use the pi button on your calculator, because it has way more decimal places than 3.14. You use 3.14 in elementary and maybe junior high, but really you should be using the pi button. So radius is 5.6, so if we multiply that by 2, we'll get the diameter. So that'll be 11.2. So circumference is pi times 11.2. And so we go pi button on my calculator is shift exponent times 11.2 and 35 point. Now what does it say what to round to? It doesn't say. So let's go to 1 decimal place, 35.2. And that's going to be in centimeters. Okay, if you did 2 pi r, let's just take a look. So 2 times pi times 5.6, we should get the same thing. Okay, so either way. Next one, the circumference of a circle is 40.2 millimeters. So now we're given the circumference, determine the radius. So now 40.2 equals pi d, okay? And then once we get the diameter, we can divide by 2. This is one way of doing it. So how do you get d by itself? You're going to divide by pi, both sides, so those divide out. So then you get d equals 40.2 divided by pi is 12.796. I'm going to round to 3 decimal places because I'm not done yet. And then radius will be the diameter divided by 2. So if it's still in your calculator, you can just press divide by 2, and then round to the nearest tenth would be 6.4. And that would be millimeters. Now, alternatively, you could go 40.2 equals 2 pi r, and then divide both sides by 2 pi. Okay, and then you'll get radius right away. Problem with this one, just be careful in your calculator. You're really going to go 40.2 divided by, in brackets, 2 pi. So if I do this, 40.2 divided by bracket 2 pi. Okay, if I did 40.2 divide by 2 and then pi, okay, kind of what it looks like, I get the wrong value because it ends up multiplying. Now, if you have the ability to do a fraction, so alpha y equals and the fraction key, then there's not really a worry. You don't need the brackets. 40.2 denominator is 2 pi, and you get your 6.4. Okay. Next one, the circumference of the semicircle. Determine the circumference of the semicircle shown. So, semicircle is half a circle. That's sort of what it would look like in your whole part. Circumference is this distance around, so half of the circumference of a circle plus this, right? Because think about circumference is what, if you had to walk around or trace through it, what would be the total distance? So really we need circumference of the, so of a semicircle. That's going to be half of pi d, okay, or pi d divided by 2. That would be this part here, okay, and then we have to add the diameter. Okay, so this would be half pi times 18 plus 18. So now a half pi times 18 is really 9 pi, or you can go half 1 divided by 2 times pi times 18, 28.274 plus 18. If you just press plus 18 now, we get 46, and we'll round to the nearest tenth, 46.3. Because it doesn't say what to round to, but that's what we'll go to. Okay? And then we're done. It's just one page for this one. Okay?